there, bookworms. Welcome to Pouring Over Books, a podcast where we dive into the books we love and maybe a few we didn't. I'm your host, LaShawn, and every week I'll be deep diving into what I'm reading, recommendations, and talking about all the things that we love about books. So grab your favorite coffee or tea, find a cozy spot, and let's get ready to pour over some great books together. Hey friends, welcome back to the Pouring Over Books podcast. I am so excited to have you here and I can't wait to talk more about books and books related things with you. But first, I want to start by saying thank you so much for the love on the first episode of the podcast. I appreciate all the feedback. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for listening and keep sharing. I appreciate it so much so we can grow our little community here on the podcast. Well, friends, I'm recording this for a Monday, and it is guaranteed to be a busy, maybe stressful week because of what's going on. If you don't know, the election here in the US of A. I plan on coping, of course, with books. Yes. So the goal of today's episode is to give you a few, I think 5, maybe 6 books that you can use to, let's say, escape reality until the world sets itself right again, because I think we're in for a roller coaster this week and I want to give us all something to do while we wait. I've chosen, like I said, 5 books in 5 genres to try to help you find something that everyone might want to read. Hopefully, one or even all of these books gets you through the next week. Think of this podcast as your emotional support episode. And if you want to have breakdowns and obsess with me anyway, join me over on Threads. Same name, same handle, because I will be over there spiraling. Okay, so let's get started. All right, so let's talk about the 5 books that I want to recommend if you want to escape reality this week. Number 1, if romance is your thing, I'm going to recommend A Love Story for Ricky Wilde by Tia Williams. Ricky Wilde has many talents, but being a Wilde isn't one of them. As the impulsive, artistic daughter of the powerful Atlanta dynasty, she's the opposite of her famous socialite sisters. When regal non-genitarian Miss Della invites her to rent the bottom floor of her Harlem brownstone, Ricky jumps at the chance for a fresh beginning. She leaves behind her family, wealth, and chaotic romantic decisions to realize her dream of opening a flower shop. And just beneath the surface of her new neighborhood, the stories, the music, and the dazzling drama of the Harlem Renaissance still simmers. Then, one evening in February, as a heady, curiously off-season scent of night-blooming jasmine fills the air, he encounters a handsome, deeply mysterious stranger who knocks her world off balance in the most unexpected way. Friends, this was so good. I mean, unexpectedly good. And I expect a Tia Williams book to be good. She's one of my favorite romance authors, and this is going to go, I can almost guarantee you it's going to go on my list of best books for 2024. It was the romance and the magical realism that made it chef's kiss for me, but I gave this book a 5 out of 5 when it came out, and I glanced through it again, and that still stands. In fact, I will not add it to my to-be-read list this month. I already have a list. Anywho, if you are looking for a good romance that will immerse you and draw you in, Love Song for Ricky Wilde. There you go. So, number 2, if fantasy is your thing, I'm going to recommend The Gunslinger by Stephen King. Yes, that Stephen King. Yes, horror Stephen King. Yes, because this is the first book of a long series where Stephen King introduces readers to one of his most, I guess, well-known heroes, Roland of Gilead, the last gunslinger. He is a haunting figure, a loner on a spellbinding journey into good and evil. In his desolate world, which frightfully mirrors our own, of course, Roland pursues the man in black, encounters an alluring woman named Alice, and begins a friendship with a kid from Earth called Jake. Both grippingly realistic and eerily dreamlike, The Gunslinger leaves readers eagerly waiting for the next chapter. If you have not heard of this series, stop what you're doing and go look it up. This entire series is iconic. He started writing this 1982, and the last book didn't come out till 2004. I read this in high school, I believe. This is one of the first fantasy series that I ever got into in my teens. And I will admit that I think I started watching the TV version that stars Idris Elba because, Idris Elba. But really, I would suggest that you read the book because, of course, the series that was on TV, I don't even know what it was on. It's similar, but there's not enough detail. You really need to read these books. It is the perfect fantasy series and it's complete. I mean, he finally completed it. When I had read the last book in my teens, he had not completed it. But of course, 2004, he did. So you don't have to wait as long as I did. So that is The Gunslinger by Stephen King. I'm going to give, that was also one of the whole series, it's one of those books you just need to read. Just need a book to read. All right. Our third book is a romantasy because, yes, there is a difference between fantasy and romantasy, friend. There's a difference. So the book that I'm going to recommend here is The Unmaking of June Farrow by Adrienne Young. This was one of my absolute favorite books of last year. I'm going to read you what is on the book jacket. The Farrow women are known for their thriving flower farm and the mysterious curse that has plagued their entire family line. The whole town remembers the madness that led to Susanna Farrow's disappearance, leading June to be raised by her grandmother and haunted by rumors. It's been a year since June started seeing and hearing things that weren't there. Faint wind chimes, a voice calling her names, and a mysterious door appearing out of nowhere. The signs of what June always knew was coming. But June is determined to end the curse once and for all, even if she must sacrifice finding love and having a family of her own. After her grandmother's death, June discovers a series of cryptic clues regarding her mother's decades-old disappearance. Except they only lead to more questions. But could the door she once assumed was a hallucination be the answer to what she's been searching for? The next time it appears, June realizes that she can touch it and walk past the threshold. And when she does, she embarks on a journey that will not only change both the past and the future, but also uncover the lingering mysteries of her small town and entangle her heart in an epic star-crossed love. Y'all, Adrienne Young is an autobiography author for me. In fact, I currently have an advanced copy of her new book that comes out in January, and I'll be settling in with that soon. Probably not till December when everything settles down, but I'm going to plan a day when I sit down and I read that book. But in the meantime, while we wait for that one, go read this one. It's not a traditional romantasy. Like there are no fae, there are no vampires, there are no fated mate, I guess you could say. But it is a fantasy that has romance in it. So try it. It almost reads more as women's lit than it does fantasy, but I have to make it fantasy because of all the magical, fantastical parts of it. Go read it. All right. The next book is self-help. So if self-help is your thing, I'm going to recommend the one book that I always recommend, Atomic Habits by James Clear. Because no matter your goals, Atomic Habit offers a proven framework for improving your everyday. James Clear reveals practical strategies that will teach you exactly how to form good habits, break bad ones, and master the teeny behaviors that lead to remarkable results. So if you're having problems changing your habits, the problem isn't you, the problem is your system. Bad habits repeat themselves again and again, not because you don't want to change, but because you have the wrong system for change. You fail at the level of your systems. I love this book. I reread this book at least once a year because it really changed the way I look at habits, consistency, and making and achieving goals. I always like to do a refresher because especially around the beginning of the year when I'm making my vision board and my goals for the year, I have to remember that it's all about the systems that you have in place on whether or not you will achieve your goals. I used to just think you write it down and it's, plan to do it and it's going to happen. No, you can even plan to do it, but what systems do you have behind the plan? Like if you say you're going to work out every day, Monday through Friday, And then here it comes, and you're looking around at the end of the first day like, okay, I didn't work out. Why? Because you didn't put a system in place. You didn't put a plan in place to help you achieve your goals. And I credit that with helping me, number one, to do 75 hard this year, and then number two, to train for this marathon that is in 12 days. Okay. All right. And the next book I want to talk about is if you need a memoir. I'm going to recommend The Meaning of Mariah Carey. 'Tis the season, and it is the perfect time to read the Queen of Christmas's memoir from the book jacket. It took me a lifetime to have the courage and clarity to write my memoir. This is what Mariah Carey is saying. I want to tell you the story of the moments, the ups and downs, the triumphs, the traumas, the debacles, and the dreams that contributed to the person I am today. Though there have been countless stories about me throughout my career and very public personal life, it's been impossible to communicate the complexities and depth of my experience in any single magazine article or 10-minute television interview. And even then, my words were filtered through someone else's lens, largely satisfying someone else's assignment to define me. This book is composed of my memories, my mishaps, my struggles, my survival, and my songs, unfiltered. I went deep into my childhood and gave the scared little girl inside of me a big voice. I let the abandoned and ambitious adolescent have her say, and the betrayed and triumphant woman I became tell her side. I want to suggest that if you read this, you get the audio book version of this book. Because not only does Mariah Carey herself read it, which makes it just as chaotic as you think it will be, but it also is filled with little bits of her singing and acting out things. It's just so good. I always like, if it's a celebrity memoir and the celebrity reads it, I will always go with the audiobook because there's nothing like listening to someone tell their own story. Because another book like this, if you don't want to read Mariah Carey, if you've already read this, Will Smith's memoir also. He raps, he talks, he acts out. It is like perfection. It is like listening to a movie almost. And so that's why I will suggest those. Okay. And my last suggestion, if you just want good fiction, I'm going to select Hello Beautiful by Ann Napolitano. Another favorite from last year, I'm going to read you my review. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I put this book on my TBR list at the beginning of the year. I was intrigued by the fact that this was a Little Women retelling. Was it Padavona sisters resemble the March sisters, and it's easy to match up each sister with her counterpart due to the ongoing references in the book. But it was William, the Laurie of the story, if you think in terms of Little Women, whose story is at the heart of this one and the one that ties everything together in the beginning and the end, and who I personally was most invested in, because he is a catalyst for the ongoing trauma/drama of the book. I wasn't sure if this book would be for me because it felt like it was too slow, but as I kept reading, I was invested and found myself thinking about the book even when I wasn't reading it. This was beautiful. It was at once depressing and hard, and at the same time full of joy and real life. I see why it was on a lot of the top books of the year this year. And since it is only my 6th 5-star rating of the year, I highly recommend it. Okay, that is what I'm going to recommend for you to read this year. But I will say there's one more book. No, let me add in this one more book. And I just thought of this while I'm recording, so I'm not really prepared. But if you want to immerse yourself right now because of the climate, because of where we are right now, if you want to immerse yourself in the history of the political of it all, I recommend reading Sharon McMahon's new book. Let me look it up. Sharon McMahon. I might be saying her name wrong. But you know, Sharon Say So on Instagram, the one who always has all the details. If you want to know something about government and history and how politics works, you go to her. She has a new book out. It's called The Small and the Mighty, 12 Unsung Americans Who Changed the Course of History from the Founding to the Civil Rights Movement. If you want something a little bit more serious and a little bit more educational, I'm going to go ahead and recommend her book. She's America's government teacher. I think everyone should follow her. like half of the misinformation in this country wouldn't be here if they did, but I digress. I digress. So those are the books that I'm going to recommend that we immerse ourselves in this week to distract us. Let me know on social media, in my DMs, wherever. Let me know what you chose and what you read. Or even if you didn't read something that was on my list, but it was good and it helped you, let me know. Just let me know on Instagram, in my DMs. Slide in my DMs, friend. Okay, friends, let's move on to the water cooler. Today's topic is, should books have warning labels? A big debate these days in the romance genre, which I think this whole debate is biased, but I digress. I say that a lot. But anyway, the big debate these days in romance is whether or not romance books should come with an explicit warning label. Evidently, the story goes, it started with someone bought the book Icebreaker. It's a romance, a contemporary romance, a hockey player and a figure skater, I think. And the book has a cartoonish cover, as do a lot of romance novels these days. The books look like they look like they're fun. But someone evidently bought the book Icebreaker for their daughter because of the cover, didn't read the blurb or anything, because the daughter said she saw it on TikTok and one of her friends read it and it was good. And they had no idea it was explicit. The reason for these stickers, according to some bookstores, is to warn parents and teenagers of the sexual content of popular book talk recommendations. But frankly, and I'd say this, so that don't come after me with your pitchfork. Any book that is not in the children's and YA section should be considered adult. If you do not find that book in the YA section of your bookstore or library, consider it adult. Parent and friends. Just because it's on the bookshelf and it's got a cute cover does not mean it's YA. Most likely, it is not. I've always believed that it's on the reader and I guess the parent, if you're monitoring that sort of thing, to figure out if the book is appropriate for you. I know that when I am reading a romance novel personally, I always look for certain things. If it says dark romance, most likely I am not going to read it because, that's not my thing. If it says BS, bondage and all that stuff, think 50 Shades, it's not for me. It's not my thing. And I expect, and sometimes it's just as simple as reading the book jacket, because the book that it seems to be the main contention, Icebreaker, I've seen that book in a bookstore and it says sexy book talk book. So I'm like, okay, did you not read? But on the other side, I get the context as a parent. But I also remember reading Jackie Collins when I was way too young, and I hate to utter this cliched Gen X sentence, but that was fun. I also remember reading Disappearing Acts by Terry McMillan. I asked for it for a Christmas present. And so I can see the parent's perspective, because I asked for it as a Christmas present and my mother just bought it for me, because at that time I was a reader, and in her brain, LaShawn asked for a book. Let me get her said book, because I used to ask for books all the time. It was only after I received the book for Christmas and she picked it up, once I was, a fast reader, almost done with it, she picked it up and read it and was like, wait. But then by then it was too late and everybody in my family had passed. Every female in my family read that book that Christmas. We was into it. I still have my original copy and it is beat up and pasted together because so many of us read that book. But anyway, I mention this because in the modern era of romance novels often have discreet or these cartoon covers to avoid drawing attention to their content. Because in spite of the fact that romance novels are a billion-dollar industry now, romance novels are still seen as frivolous and trashy when you compare it to, say, serious quote unquote literature. I feel like adding these content warning labels reinforces the stigma. It's like by signaling out romance novels, it's as if they saying that the genre is more explicit and or offensive than any other genre. I mean, romance novels are often much more than sex scenes. I mean, yes, there are some where, frankly, it's just a smut fest, and that's okay. But romance novels are a form of entertaining just like any other book, any other genre. They provide readers with an escape just like any other genre. And if you set aside the sex seriously, it's for women especially, it deals with themes like consent, what a healthy relationship looks like, what a healthy relationship does not look like, self-discovery. And this leads to the question of what message is this sending if we decide to put labels on books? Like, do you want romance readers to be ashamed of what they're reading? I mean, imagine being on the subway with a big fat explicit sticker on your book. Then everybody knows, oh, she probably reading some smut. I mean, really? No one should be ashamed of any book that they're reading. I mean, sticking adult content warners on stickers on romance novel reinforces these harmful attitudes that society has towards romance genre. And again, it sends the message to readers that we should be ashamed of what we are reading. We should be celebrating and supporting the romance genre because it gets people reading. And is that not the point? Not stigmatizing and shaming it. So I just want to go on record to say, read your smut with pride. Read your smut with pride. That literally that's all I got to say about that. All right. So we're coming. That is all I really have for today. We are coming to the end of the episode, but I do want to talk about three things, the three things that I'm currently thinking about this week. Number one, I'm obsessed with voting. Tomorrow is election day, friends. If you have not early voted, it is your civic duty to go and vote. I'm not talking about who you voting for on here. I'm just talking about it is your civic duty, your forefathers fought to get you the right to vote. Go and vote. Number two, what I'm looking forward to this month. I made a list of 10 books I'm going to get through in November. I am going to try very hard not to deviate from this list. It's heavily fantasy themed, and I'm loving that for me. I am also currently eating and loving those damn Sausalito cookies from Petra's Farm. Guys, they were buy one, get one free this week at Publix. And let's just say I bought one and got one free, and one bag is already gone. I know better. I know better than to buy them because I cannot stop at eating just one cookie. I cannot stop at eating just two. But it was a stressy. I was a little stressed, and one cookie went in my mouth, and then next thing I know, it was gone. The bag was gone. And I'm okay with that. In the past, I'm really proud of the work that I've done on myself because in the past, I would have felt guilty when I indulge more than I plan to. But during this marathon training season, I literally look at it like carbs are carbs. Any carb is a good carb and it will help me run. So literally, it's okay. All right. And last but not least, my current read. I am listening to Thank You for Listening by Julia Whalen. And let me read you what the book is about. So for Swanee Chester, being an audiobook narrator is a long way from her old dreams, but the days of being a star on film sets are long behind her. She's found success and satisfaction from the inside of a sound booth, and it allows her to care for her beloved ailing grandmother. When she arrives in Las Vegas last minute for a book convention, Swanee unexpectedly spends a whirlwind night with a charming stranger. On her return home, Swanee discovers one of the world's most beloved romance novelists wanted her to perform her last book with Brock McKnight, the industry's hottest, most secretive voice. Swanee doesn't buy what romance novels are selling, not after her own dreams were tragically cut short, and she stopped narrating them years ago. But her admiration for the late author and the opportunity to get her grandmother more help makes the decision for her. As Swanee begins to work on the book, resurrecting her old romance pseudonym, she and Brock forge a real connection, hidden behind the comfort of anonymity. Soon, she is dreaming again, but secrets are revealed and realities come crashing down around her once more. This book is kind of meta. It's just meta that I'm listening to an audiobook about an audiobook narrator. It is so good. I've reached the part where the realities of life, quote unquote, come crashing down around her, and I'm taking a break from that to record this podcast. So yes, I am feeling some kind of way and anxious to get back to it. I'll be somewhere cleaning while I'm listening to it. I just want to say that it is so, so good. and I will probably give a more detailed review at a later date. So stay tuned over on IG or on the blog. That's all, friends. I hope you protect your peace this week. And I hope that maybe, just maybe, you can lose yourself in a good book for a little while anyway. You can find all of the books I mentioned today in the show notes by visiting pouringoverbooks.com. If you are or right here in the show notes that's on the podcast episode. If you are a friend of the Pouring Over Books podcast and want to show me some love, please, please, please leave a rating or a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I would really, really appreciate it. And your reviews will help other book lovers find me. If you want to find me, you can do that at LaShawn Wilts over on IG or follow my Substack, Letters from LaShawn. In the meantime, friends, have a great week. I will see you next week. So, talk to you soon. Bye-bye.